Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Well, if you're new here, welcome to my channel. If you're coming back, welcome back. My name is China. I am a psychic intuitive tarot reader, and as you can see the title of the video, we are getting all into the High Priestess card today. Okay, now if you haven't watched the first two videos, I highly suggest going back to watch those, because when you learn tarot in the particular order, it helps you remember it better. It makes sense to your subconscious mind a little bit better. Okay, so the first video was on the Fool card, the second video was on the Magician, and I'll link those down below. Okay, so we are going to get all into the High Priestess card. We're going to talk about the numerology, the imagery, how it may show up in the reading, the overall meaning. We're going to dive into all of that. Okay, so if you need to, grab you some water, grab you some tea, put your AirPods in, whatever, get nice and comfy, cozy, get you a notebook so we can dive right in. Okay, so I do have my notebook here, so if y'all see me looking down, that's because I want to make sure I give y'all all the deets. Okay, I don't want to leave anything out. I absolutely love tarot. It like helped me come out of such a dark place in my life, so I'm really passionate about it. So I really want to give y'all the tools to help yourselves, or whether if you want to read for other people and do this as a career, this is a great place to start as well. Or if you just want to understand readings that you're getting done from other people too, this is also beneficial as well. Okay, so whatever you're looking for, or even if you're just looking to refresh your knowledge, this is a good place to start. All right, so before we dive in, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and we're gonna get right into it. Okay, so first we're going to dive into the numerology of the card. Okay, so the High Priestess is number 2 in the major arcana. It's the third card, but it's number 2 because the Fool card starts at 0. So you want Fool card 0, the Magician was 1, the High Priestess is 2, right? So the High Priestess with the number 2 in numerology represents duality. It represents balance. Okay, now with it we'll get into the imagery a little bit more later, but the first thing that stands out to you is the pillars, right? The white and black pillars. Maybe not the first thing, but it does stand out, right? And that just represents the balance of life, whether it's the dark and the light, the known and the unknown, the material world and the spiritual world. It just represents the balance of the two, right? So that's how you can remember when you even see the number 2, when you see the High Priestess card come out, you should already think about duality and balance, right? And so when you really think of things from a duality place, it helps you not to think of things as good and bad. Like, I feel like we have been trained subconsciously that the darkness is bad and the lightness is good, when it's neither nor. The darkness is just unknown and the light is just known. You know what I'm saying? Like the darkness represents the dark before God said, let there be light. And then the light is just the things that we can see. But there was amazing miracles going on in the dark before the light turned on, you know? So I try to really stress to think of it from duality, a neutral state of place, not good and bad, okay? And once you can really look at things from a neutral and duality point of view, you can really trust yourself to know that you're seeking the answers for a certain situation, whatever it may be, from a neutral standpoint, not from a bias or weighed standpoint, okay? So now we're going to get into the overall meaning, because that ties right on into it, okay? So the High Priestess is usually shown sitting in between the 2 pillars, right? Representing masculine, feminine, light, dark, subconscious, unconscious, spirit realm, material realm. Like, she's seated in the middle of that. So she represents your intuition, your inner knowledge, your subconscious mind. Because whether you're aware of it or not, your subconscious mind is constantly picking up on clues throughout your day, throughout your dreams, throughout your whatever is happening. Like, your subconscious mind is constantly running, whether we're aware of it or not. So it's picking up on all information, all light and dark, all masculine and feminine. It's picking up on both sides. So your subconscious mind is able to process that information even when you aren't consciously doing it, right? So she represents tapping into that energy of your subconscious mind to gain more insight on what you are supposed to do. She really teaches us that everything we need to know is inside of us. She really represents a time where it's not seeking outside sources, not seeking outside advice or guidance, but really to go inside, to quiet your life down so you can really receive like the next steps, like what you need to know, how you need to maneuver, what, even if it's a career, what step do I need to take in my career? If it's my relationship, what do I need to know about my relationship so you can proceed forward? And it's also very important to develop self-trust. I feel like she also represents a lot of self-trust because you have to be able to trust that the information you're giving yourself is valid. So depending on how she pops up in a reading, it may be a time where you have to develop a relationship of trust with yourself. And I feel like we've been taught since a young age to go to outside sources for information, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's just a thing. But so we trust going to outside sources more because we were more conditioned to doing that, right? But when you think of something, you're questioning yourself like, is that the right thing? But when you look up something on the internet, you'll believe it like that. And that was just another person who came up with that information. So you have to believe that you are connected, just like we've realized in the last card, the Magician, right? So the Magician realized, oh, I'm connected to source. I'm connected to the Most High. I'm receiving information from the spirit realm and I can create it here in the physical realm, right? But I feel like the Magician still had a little bit of innocence about it, a little naivety, which isn't a bad thing. It just is what it is. And now the High Priestess, you have graduated to a point where it's like, you know that what you're receiving from the Most High is valid and that you are bringing it down here for your steps in this world. It really represents that like inner knowing, okay? Not like, oh, I think I can make something. It's like, no, I know what to do. So let me quiet down so I can hear what I need to do. And when the High Priestess card comes up, it can also represent a time where you need to spend time in meditation and also pay attention to your dreams and your imagination, right? Because it's that subconscious mind that we really want to connect to get the information from. So when you're sleeping, if you're someone who has vivid dreams, I highly suggest keeping a dream journal. Whether this card comes out in a reading or not, your dreams are usually communicating with you. And then especially if this card comes out, even if you're not someone who gets vivid dreams, it may be a time for you to drink like a Blue Lotus tea or do a fast, cleanse your diet, because those are things that can affect us being able to tap into our subconscious mind, okay? You may need to consume like mushrooms, not talking about psychedelics, but just like lion's mane or cordyceps, things like that, so you can strengthen your cognition, so you can access your subconscious mind more, because your dreams, believe it or not, they are communicating with you and giving you guidance for here in the spiritual realm. You just have to understand how to interpret dreams, which is a whole separate thing. We ain't even gonna get into all of that. But all right, for one thing, for example, like if you dream that you are eating a slice of apple pie, right? That can represent taking something so basic as an apple and preparing it into something so sweet and delicious and complex. So that can represent having an idea like, oh, I want to start a podcast, and then you pouring into your idea, concocting the idea, and it coming out to this beautiful pie, and now you're able to enjoy the fruits of your labor. So that's how dreams work. Just a little shallow insight on that. Like dreams, they make sense when you can interpret them, okay? So write it down, even if it seems like it does not make sense. I promise you, like you'll go back and read it and be like, oh snap, that's what, okay. And the dots will start to connect, y'all. I promise, okay? So really pay attention to your dreams, and then also pay attention to your daydreaming too. Like I feel like people think daydreaming is just like something that you're controlling when it's really not. Daydreaming is usually something that's in your subconscious mind. So I'm a hairstylist. Outside of being a tarot reader, I do hair, and doing hair, because I've done it for so long and I do the same styles, I'm able to enter like a meditative state when I'm not talking to my clients, right? So as I'm doing hair, my brain is running. And then when I start to tap into those thoughts, it's like guidance and instructions and steps and business plans and what I should do next. It gives you guidance. It gives you insight. And that is so important here in this school, this earth school, okay? Is really tapping into your intuition and your insights in your subconscious mind, okay? So now we are going to get into the imagery on the card, okay? So as you can see, there is the two pillars. We'll start with that because I feel like that's pretty, like it stands out, right? So you see there's the black pillar and the white pillar. The pillars represents the balance of opposites and the existence of duality in itself. That two things that are opposite can exist in one at the same time, okay? So like I said, yin and yang, that like you can literally think of it as yin and yang and masculine and feminine and spiritual world and material world and existing in the duality of those things, okay? I'm not sure if I'm going to pronounce this properly, but the J stands for Jachin and the B stands for Boaz, which those were the two pillars in front of the temple of Solomon's temple, okay? And Jachin means he will establish, and Boaz means in his strength. So he will establish in his strength, okay? So it's sitting in that energy of the two dualities. And then we have the High Priestess sitting there, right? And she just represents wisdom. I know in some references she's referred to as Eve. In some references she's referred to as Isis. And both of these women in scripts and historical texts obtained wisdom and knowledge, okay? So you can really associate that woman sitting there with wisdom and knowledge and inner knowing and wisdom and knowledge, okay? With going within and trusting what you know inside yourself. There's a crescent moon at her feet, so that represents your feminine intuition and trusting your subconscious mind. The moon usually represents something that's hidden, right? And something that should be revealed or just something that is unknown. So when you see the moon pop up on certain things, you remember that. You'll see it. The moon comes up a lot throughout tarot, just in little... Well, the moon has its own card in itself, but there's also other images in tarot that have the moon card. So it's really important to remember as you're reading, certain imagery may stick out to you more at that time period than another. So if you're reading and for some reason this particular day when the High Priestess card comes out and you're really drawn to like the moon at her feet, you know, that's when a moment where you would say the moon could be significant. There could be something that's hidden that needs to be revealed, or there could be something that's in your intuition or your subconscious that you need to lean into to bring to the forefront for for knowledge for self or for knowledge for others. So the moon just really represents something that is like hidden, okay? Or if the moon is standing out to you while you're looking at this card, you can say, okay, it may be like a Cancer energy or something like that, because the Cancer is a sign that is connected to the moon. So there are just so many things, and you have to really trust your intuition and be in your High Priestess energy when you are reading tarot, okay? And then we have the veil behind her that has a whole bunch of pomegranates on it. The veil represents the line, the wall between the conscious and unconscious world, okay? And she has access to both sides, but not everybody may be ready to access that information. That's why that veil is there. You have to actually seek the information. It's not like a lot of things with spirituality are just like handed to you. You have to seek the knowledge. You have to want to know more. And there could be so much limitless possibilities that can come out of it. That's why we have the pomegranates there. Pomegranates represent abundance and multiple opportunities when you see it in tarot. So the veil is a limitless possibilities if you seek to learn what's beyond the veil. So yes, and the High Priestess, as you can see, she's wearing the crown, right? And the crown represents the three phases of the moon. So waxing, waning, and full. Those three phases. And it also represents the three phases of a woman. The maiden, the mother, and the crone. The maiden represents like the birth, the young phase, which is the waxing moon. It symbolizes enchantment, inception, and expansion. The mother represents fertility, power, ripeness, and the full moon, which also symbolizes fulfillment, stability, and sexuality. The crone represents the wisdom, death, repose, and the waning moon, which also symbolizes endings. Connecting to your feminine intuition is realizing that all of these phases of the lunar cycle are important to understanding yourself as well. So that's a whole nother separate thing. But if that does stand out to you during a reading, I just wanted to give you that knowledge so you can use your intuition as you are reading, okay? And then as you see, she's dressed in blue with her blue crown. Blue was a color of divine, so it just meant divine energy, divine feminine energy. Then we have her holding the rolled up scroll, the Torah, which represents sacred knowledge. So she has the sacred knowledge. She is in tune with sacred knowledge and she understands sacred knowledge, okay? So that's all for the imagery on the card. Now we'll go into how it may show up in a reading. So when the High Priestess shows up in a general tarot reading, it can represent a time to tap into your intuition, trust your inner self, listen to your inner voice, explore your subconscious minds, meditate, pay attention to your dreams, pay attention to your imagination, and just overall seek deeper meaning or deeper understanding through introspection, through personal introspection. It can show up in a love reading if there's a need for you to go in and trusting yourself that you know what is best for that relationship, whether it's a potential romantic partner or it is a actual current romantic partner or just someone that you have a crush on. It is a time to really listen to your gut and trust your intuitions and know that what is coming up, not in what you want, not how you want to perceive the situation, but what is in your subconscious mind, what your gut is telling you about the situation, to really pull that out and listen to that and let that guide you. Or if you have a dream about that person, really listen to that dream, okay? It can also represent a mysterious aspect about the relationship and a need to go in and figure out that mysterious aspect, whether it's to further explore intimately or to speak up about certain feelings that you may be having held within, okay? When it comes to the High Priestess coming up for a career reading, that's a time to really trust your gut, and it may not always make sense logically, right? So for on paper, it can look like to take this one career is the best thing. Everybody's yes, you should go for that. But when you really think about taking that career, something in your gut is telling you no, this isn't for me. And then you do a reading and the High Priestess comes out. That is really a time to trust your intuition and to lean into what your body is communicating with you. Because when you have access to the spirit realm and you're not just thinking in the material realm, you operate and move differently. So here in the material realm, 1 + 1 = 2. But in the spirit realm, 1 + 1 = 3. Because when you bring one thing together and you bring another thing together, it births something else. So in the spirit realm, 1 + 1 is 3. So it's having that knowledge, that spiritual knowledge, is a different understanding of things. So when you trust that and you can move by that, you operate a little differently. And so when the High Priestess card comes out, it's really a time to lean into that energy of trusting yourself and knowing that you know what you are doing, okay? All right, so now we're just going to get into some of the facts of the High Priestess card. So when the High Priestess card, when you see it, it is connected to the moon. In planetary wise, it's connected to the moon. Chakra wise, it's connected to the third eye. Zodiac sign is connected to Pisces. If it's a yes or no, it usually represents a yes. Element wise is connected to water. And yeah, it's just about believing that you will make the right decision, okay? Now, when the High Priestess comes out in reverse, that can represent a time where you are having a hard time trusting your intuition, or you're blocking yourself from accessing your subconscious mind. You can be ignoring your gut feelings, or you could just not be paying, really tapped in to even hear your gut feelings. You may be partaking in too many material world things that are preventing you from that connection of self. You may be experiencing a lot of confusion at the time when the High Priestess comes out in reverse, because you're doing a lot of things from thinking and logic instead of listening to what your body is trying to communicate with you. And then that in itself can create an imbalance type of feeling, right? Because remember, it's about the two, it's about the duality, it's about that balance of everything, so you may be operating at a place of imbalance, resulting in you feeling confused. It can also represent you not trusting yourself. So even though you may be tapped in and hearing these guidance and hearing this intuition and having all this inner knowledge, you may lack the trust to actually act on it. So when it comes up in reverse, it can also represent lack of self-trust. And then it can also, in the reverse, it can also mean accepting just the surface level of knowledge, not doing the deep dive to get the real true information. It could be just somebody telling you something. You're okay, I'm gonna go with it. It could represent that you're operating from that space instead of doing the work to actually obtain the correct knowledge that is true to you, okay? So I hope all of this resonated. I hope it all made sense. Please leave some comments in the bottom because this is a lot of work, okay? And we only on video number 3. We got lots to go. So yes, the next video is the Empress, which is number 3 in tarot, and we're going to dive all into that. That's one of my favorite cards. So I hope to see you guys there. Have a great